just finished up for the evening. So we've been working mostly on recovery points this evening and finishing off the chassis. So you can see the either end of the chassis rails have been plated over, that's 3mm plate. And then because Land Rover lap 3mm over 3mm and then weld it together as a bit of folded box for the front cross member, we've had to weld in a bit of 3mm plate here, which takes out up to 6mm thickness there, but it's only 3 there. But that doesn't matter because around the back you can just see the top of it there is 300mm by 100mm 6mm plate, which is to strengthen the chassis for the recovery point. That then has tubes which are popped all the way through, which go to the front bolt point, and they are welded in front and back to make it super strong. And then we have the ball on there, which is not the strongest thing in the world. You've heard a lot of people say a lot of things against them, but it's what's approved for recovery in 4x4 trialling. So that's what we get. And then we'll obviously turn bolts around so it's nicer when it's actually done. So that's been quite a lot of action this evening. We've got this end done, the other end is still to do, but we've got the plates made up, we've got the tubes made up, they had to be reamed, take them out to the right size for the bolts, they're a nice snug fit. So that's all done and fit, and that was an evening's entertainment. Next time we shall probably be doing the other end. Then at some point we've got to pop the body off because we need to do a cage for it. So the body needs to come off, all the chassis is going to need to be cleaned down and then painted up, because once the body goes back down, then it's all going to be nailed in there together and won't be able to come apart again. So you might be thinking, if it's a trialer, why has it still got a windscreen and what's all the very skeletal stuff? Well now, some of us are older than others and none of us are young. So we've retained the windscreen because that way we'll get less wet and cold and damp and miserable and grumpy at trials. So if we retain that, the idea is that we can retain the heat blower as well. So even if the vehicle is open, we will still be able to keep ourselves reasonably warm and comfortable when we're at the events. So no one has a fit and stomps off home because they've got cold and it's wet and it's nasty and it's unpleasant. So there's quite a lot of sort of creature comforts going to be on this. We shall see. So yeah, the idea is to form the cage around the front pillars, give lots of protection to the screen, and then the front hoop, or back hoop rather, has to come in here. So at the moment we're looking at thinking, well, all of that rear bulkhead has to go. We retained it all because it's all there, and if you don't have to make up a bulkhead, it's an awful lot less work. But actually, the more important bulkhead is this one, which is the really tricky one if you want to fabricate it, because it's all of the footwells. And we made the mistake on a previous project of actually cutting the footwells out and thinking, oh, that'll be easy to remake. They were not easy to remake. It was an absolute horror show. So there was an awful lot of cutting, bending, making panels to suit, remaking panels to suit. But on this one, we've retained the whole shooting match. We should be putting the dash back in there, which should give us a quite nice front firewall without too much effort. The back one, because it's behind the seats, depending upon where the body winds up, because we might body lift it a little bit just to make sure we've got enough clearance, it's probably just going to be a flat firewall, which will be attached to the 100 by 100 box, which will be at the bottom of that rear hoop. We're building to MSA regs, or Motorsport UK regs, which means that the hoop has to be a maximum of 25 centimetres behind the driver's seat. We've got to have at least 5 centimetres above the driver's head, so we need to make sure we've got all of the goons who are likely to drive it here to make sure that everyone fits in it. The seat does slide backwards and forwards on rails. Might have to make some tubular mounts up for it just so we're absolutely 100% confident in that. But that's no great shake. So yeah, there's going to be a hoop in there. The big challenge is going to be actually the front hoop, because that's going to probably wind up wanting to be formed around the curved windscreen. So we need to check regs, make sure we're okay to do that. Everything will be landed down here on 100 by 100 box, 3mm wall, which should give us a super strong structure for the trialer to be built and then serve for many, many years doing many, many foolish things. Yeah, the transmission you can see here works backwards because, of course, the gearbox points the other way. So short of getting a new cable, which would be quite an expensive endeavour, it's just going to work backwards, and we'll have to remember that. Anyway, that's progress for this evening. A bit more chat about the project, and we'll see where we get to in the next week or so. Cheers.